Professional sports leagues spent decades trying to keep gambling away from their games. And then they just stopped, jumped in with both feet. So what are they risking?
You know, several years ago, someone asked me, is it possible that down the road parents might be reluctant to introduce their kids to pro sports because they didn't want them overexposed to gambling? And I thought that was a bit much. And now we're seeing such alarming rates of gambling among people as young as their early teens.
Sports has never been as popular or profitable. But what happens if the betting line becomes the bottom line? Hi, I'm Paul Haverstrood. Welcome to The Cost of Living. If you missed the latest sports betting scandal, don't worry. Another one is probably just around the corner. So why did sports leagues open their doors to this? We'll ask Danny Funt. He's the author of an upcoming book, Everybody Loses: The Tumultuous Rise of American Sports Gambling. And have you ever scanned something at checkout and it was even more on sale than you thought? An extra discount on top of the discount? Turns out a whole subculture of people are out there hunting for those kinds of deals. It's the hidden world of penny shoppers. Up first, the early bird special used to be just a retiree thing. Eat at 5 and you could be home for Jeopardy. But what could it mean for the economy if we're all going home early? So Jen, are we becoming a nation of early birds?
It kind of seems that way, Paul. Like, you know the musician Kathleen Edwards?
Yeah, she's lovely.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. She's on tour right now, and I follow her on Twitter. So I was noticing the other week that she was promoting her show by posting, "Come on down. The show starts at 8, and it's usually done by 9:30."
So this is not exactly that Keith Richards lifestyle then.
I think rock and roll has changed.
Oh, haven't we all?
But, you know, Kathleen is on to something because going out at night, staying out late, it doesn't seem to be happening as much. And we're not just talking about Gen X like me. We are talking about young people, Gen Zs and millennials like Alana Willerton.
I'm a big foodie. I love going out to restaurants or events or just grabbing drinks with friends, you know, kind of just soaking up those evening vibes and everything. But I would say my ideal scenario at the end of those nights is being home by 10 p.m.
Inner jammies by 10.
That's living, ain't it?
Oh, yeah.
But Alana isn't the only one. Like last month, she went out to a bar with friends. They were celebrating her birthday, and they went out to this hot new place in Calgary.
We went for 7 or 7:30, and I thought, oh, we'll have no problem getting a seat. They won't get busy till later. And it was packed. We could barely get a seat. And then the later we stayed, I think it was around 9:30, 10, it thinned out a little bit.
I don't want to be like, in my day, we were just going out at 10, but, you know, in my day, we were.
Things have changed a lot since your day, especially in the last couple of years. Will Straw is a professor emeritus at McGill University in Montreal, and he studies urban nightlife, like restaurants.
People want to eat early. They're not going to linger and sort of, well, let's have another bottle of wine. You know, they're going to be out by 8 or 8:30, and it's harder and harder to sell, you know, what they call that second setting, because people, you know, they want to come right after work. Maybe they're going out to do something else, but they're probably going home, you know, to read some more emails or whatever.
Well, whatever is like not partying.
Yeah, well, not partying like it's 1999. And we aren't just going home earlier. We are spending less on going out, period. There's data that shows that the amount of money we're spending at bars, clubs, restaurants between 7 at night and 4 in the morning has dropped in the last couple of years.
Young people just find, you know, the idea of going to a club, buying expensive drinks, paying an admission fee, taking whatever taxi or Uber you need to get home seems too expensive. I mean, you could say it was always expensive, but I think we've all noticed with restaurants and bars, prices have gone up considerably since the end of the pandemic.
Yeah, burger and fries used to be $12, then it was 15, then it was 18, then it was 20.
That takes a bite, right, out of your budget. And Restaurants Canada put out the results of a survey recently. No surprise, 3/4 of us say we are dining out less.
That's 3 out of every 4 people, though. That's a lot.
Yeah, inflation, right? But that's only part of what the nightlife industry is dealing with. There is something else going on, too. The things that young people care about are changing. Like, take Alana Willerton. She is really into healthy living these days, and she says the same goes for her friends.
They are also prioritizing some of those same, the sleep, the mental wellness, all of that, and money, the same way that I am. So I do think I'm probably a little more diligent and strict about it than some people, but I don't think I'm alone.
So if you're watching your money, you're trying to get your 8 hours, you're more likely to make it an early night.
Yeah, but what if you're a business, and your business is built on people going out late, spending money? This kind of trend is not what you want to see.
No, and 40% of restaurants right now say they are either losing money or just breaking even. And when it comes to the live music business, it's rough there too.
At the moment, everything is tight.
That's Vas Kranis. He runs an indie music spot in Toronto called Basement 254. He says the real issue in his business, crowds just aren't drinking that much.
When people come out, our water station, we're the type of place that will always offer free water and that sort of thing. Like, we don't charge you for everything. But, our water station is our most popular spot right now, and that's kind of depressing.
Well, I'm very pro hydration, as you know, so good on him for offering water, but that ain't paying the bills.
Music venues make most of their money from the bar. And since Vas opened in 2021, he figures bar revenues have dropped in half.
So he's kind of getting crushed.
Yeah, he also has to deal with competition from legal weed now. He says people show up to watch the band, they've got a couple of edibles in their pocket.
And he's not making money from that because that's going to the weed store.
That's right. So he is trying to adapt. He's taking a bigger cut of the door. He may have to charge more for tickets. And he thinks other music venues are going to have to do the same because something's got to give.
The show costs are going to keep going up and up and up, or you're going to be getting less for what you pay for, right? You may used to get 3 bands when you go out. You may be getting 2. Or there's just going to be fewer people doing it.
When he says fewer people, does he mean there's going to be fewer bands out there or just fewer bars to go to?
Maybe both. I mean, quite a few music venues have closed in the last few years. Just in Toronto, there's the Phoenix, the Silver Dollar Room, the Velvet Underground. And they didn't just close because of this, but there is a change happening. Like, you can see it in other ways, too, if you just look at the movies, for example.
Well, yeah, we talk about how many people are going to movies, and we look at, the take from the box office, and it just keeps going down.
Yeah, audiences have dropped a lot in the last 5 years. And not coincidentally, prices have gone up. Since 2020, the cost of a movie ticket in Canada has increased by more than 30%.
And you could see how all of this would turn into something of a downward spiral. You've got fewer people going out because it's expensive. So theaters, restaurants, clubs, they either close their doors, which is something we're seeing, or they raise their prices, which also something we're seeing.
And then even fewer people can afford to go out. And some cities are really starting to worry about this.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about the value of nightlife economies, and a lot of cities really like the idea of 24-hour spending.
It brings in billions of dollars, right? The city of Ottawa has even hired someone to try to find a way to get more people going out and staying out late. Mathieu Grondin is that city's nightlife commissioner, and he says there's a lot at stake here, and it's not just about money.
The outcomes of having a vibrant nightlife, we know them. It helps you retain your workforce. It helps the quality of life of your residents. It helps to socialize people. And in a time where there's so much polarization, we need people to be able to interact and connect. This is what the role of nightlife.
He's really selling that nighttime economy. Like, hey, It can cure what ails us.
Even polarization. You got to go out, buy a drink, talk to someone you don't know. But I mean, that could be true even if your night starts at 6 o'clock. And some places are experimenting with that, like they're hosting daytime raves or putting on shows that they call like soft clubbing events. Vas Kranis, who runs Basement 254, he has started to book some shows earlier in the evening to try to sort of go where the people are, right? And he's even putting on the kind of show that used to draw a late night crowd, like reggae acts.
Everybody always said, never put reggae's a late crowd. What we found over the last year is we started programming it early. And people came, and people love it. And people are saying, this is great. I can get home before midnight, and it's fantastic.
Hey, 3 little birds on his doorstep, but just, earlier.
It's a nice Bob Marley reference there.
One love, Jen. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
What's the best deal you ever got on something? Like the smokinest, can't believe I'm paying this kind of buy? Whatever it is, Danielle Nerman is pretty sure she just met some folks who have you beat.
Some people have a pantry to store their extra household items like towels and toilet paper. Cassandra Marks has a stockroom.
I got more items behind me here. This is piles of stuff I haven't put away yet. I got stuff everywhere in my basement. It's like a mini store down here.
Shelves and shelves of bedding, cleaning supplies, and coloring books.
Easily over 1,000 items, easily.
All of it adds up to thousands of dollars worth of merchandise. But Cassandra didn't pay that much for it. Not even close.
These toys over here were all 2-cent items in Canada. These baskets, all pennies in the States.
Cassandra is what's known as a penny shopper. She lives near Windsor, and every week she crisscrosses the border, scouring the aisles of Dollar General in the States and Walmart in Canada, looking for items that sell for 1 or 2 cents. Cassandra says they're usually products that have been on clearance for a while, or seasonal items going out of season. But the tags don't say if they're 1 or 2 cents, and stores don't advertise penny items. So tracking them down is like a treasure hunt.
And the only way to do this is to grab random things, and you have to walk them over to the checkout. And you're just gonna check each one.
So why are penny items so secret? Well, technically, they're not for sale. According to Walmart Canada, these products are destined for donation or resale. When the price changes to 2 cents, that's a signal to employees. They're supposed to remove them from the sales floor.
However, we've been to these stores. We know that they're understaffed. We know that they are busy.
Ugo Lord is a lawyer based in Hollywood, California.
And there are times where these store associates cannot pull the items off the shelves, and that's when a customer finds it. And lo and behold, it is Christmas.
He makes videos about the law on TikTok, and he's covered the ins and outs of penny shopping. Because sometimes when customers try to buy these items, things get heated.
Can we talk to the manager really quick? I have the receipt. I'm not going to sit here and wait when I paid for something, man.
I have done videos where stores have gone as far as calling the police, alleging that it's theft.
But Ugo says if you find a penny item before it's been pulled from the shelf and you buy it,
it is a purchase and an agreement. And consequently, the store must honor the price that was sold because it no longer belongs to the store. Now it belongs to the customer.
And that's true in Canada, too. It's outlined in the Sale of Goods Act in every province. But here's the catch. If you haven't paid for the item yet, you just scan it and a cashier sees that 1 or 2 cent price pop up, they can stop you before you buy it. Cassandra Marks has never had a problem buying penny items, but she says she may have a shopping problem. Like that time she bought 400 penny items in one day.
My whole car was packed. I literally had stuff in between my kids, on top of my kids, in like the middle console up front, like literally everywhere.
If you're wondering what she does with all this stuff, she has 5 kids and lots of nieces and nephews. So she's got birthdays covered. Also, Cassandra donates a lot of her penny items because it's not about owning the stuff, it's about finding it.
It's a thrill. Like, it really is. I feel like people get like thrills from like bungee jumping and dropping off of planes, but I like get a thrill knowing that I can go into the store and come out with a cart full of stuff and pay like next to nothing for it.
For The Cost of Living, I'm Danielle Nerman.
Back in 1919, when the Black Sox fixed the World Series, Major League Baseball cracked down hard. It banned Shoeless Joe and his teammates for life. They even made a movie about it.
No player who throws a ball game and does not promptly tell his club about it will ever play professional baseball again.
Sports leagues used to take a near biblical approach to gambling, like it was a battle between good and evil for the soul of the game. Now, you can't watch NHL hockey without seeing a dozen ads for Bet365. But if who covers the spread becomes more important than who wins or loses, what could that mean for sports and fans, even if you just drop in and watch once in a while? Danny Funt is the author of a new book, out this January. Everybody Loses: The Tumultuous Rise of American Sports Gambling. Danny, hello.
Hi, glad to be here.
Just how remarkable is this flip-flop for pro sports and gambling?
It couldn't be more stark. And your choice of word biblical is appropriate. They used to speak of gambling as an existential threat that was an evil, as they put it, that threatened to destroy sports. And so the fact that the commissioner of baseball and the NBA and the NHL and the NFL flip-flopped so dramatically was awkward for them. And I really wanted to make sense of that in my book. How did they have this profound change of heart so suddenly?
So then what was the answer for that? What was behind this profound change of heart?
Obviously, the leagues have always been profit motivated. So it's not like suddenly they said, gee, we could make a lot of money by embracing gambling. But I think specifically the NBA and Major League Baseball led the charge as far as coming around on gambling. Baseball saw its audience aging dramatically in just the past decade or so. Its audience shrinking. If you looked at World Series viewership, for example, it was way down since the 90s or even the 2000s. And there is evidence, and there was fresh evidence that they were looking at about a decade ago, that gamblers are hyper-engaged viewers. They watch games you might not otherwise care about. They watch till the ends of games because they're biting their nails over how a bet will end up, even if the game itself is decided. And that was extremely attractive for them to protect the value of this precious asset, their TV deals.
I mean, tough to pin down, but do we have even any kind of ballpark sense of the kinds of numbers we're talking about in terms of money that is getting gambled in North America?
Yeah, fortunately, they have to disclose that to the states, so we have a pretty good estimate that in the U.S. at least, about $150 billion is wagered legally every year, meaning that since this boon of legalization across the country, more than $500 billion has been wagered legally. It's kind of a staggering, incomprehensible amount of money.
So we're talking about a whole pile of money. And with that kind of money comes temptation. I mean, right now we seem to be getting one betting scandal after another. The NBA's Terry Rozier just got indicted for being in cahoots with gamblers. He was going to make $26 million this year. That's way more than was being gambled. Do we have any idea why a player like that would risk his career, risk that kind of money doing this?
There are a bunch of reasons, and I think they're pretty compelling, even though, again, the leagues and all the proponents of legalization said what many of us might assume: these guys are too wealthy to risk throwing it all away by gambling. For one, if you're a player like Terry Rozier on, at the time, the Charlotte Hornets, it wasn't mysterious to many people that the Hornets were actively tanking. They were trying to lose games to improve their draft position in the subsequent draft. So if you're in that position, you might say, gee, if I help a childhood friend make a lot of money by removing myself from one game, what's the big deal? If you're one of these Cleveland Guardians pitchers who was just arrested for intentionally throwing balls or intentionally throwing under a certain speed on a given pitch to influence betting outcomes, you might say, I can affect one pitch in an inning and make a friend a whole lot of money. That's pretty tempting. You might say, uh, yeah, I make good money, but I'm getting encouraged to gamble just like everyone else. And in the case of Jonte Porter, the Toronto Raptors player who was banned for life after he was caught colluding with gamblers to influence games, he racked up allegedly pretty substantial gambling debts. And some of people who were privy to that were able to extort him to say, you shouldn't have been gambling in the first place. Now, why don't you work with us to help all of us get you out of debt and make us money? And lastly, I'll just point out there's a lot of evidence that athletes are especially susceptible to gambling addiction, partly because they love to gamble. And there's so many stories of them, playing cards on their team bus or whatever. They also are maniacally competitive and don't accept losing, and that can be a pretty brutal combination for a gambler. So someone like Phil Mickelson, who's made about $1 billion in his golf career, recently said, I have a gambling problem, and reportedly he's lost hundreds of millions of dollars over his career betting, including betting on sports. So many reasons why this simple idea that they're too rich to make this sort of mistake just doesn't add up.
If we think about the leagues, as more of these scandals come to light, are the leagues at all worried about what this could mean for their brands?
Definitely. Despite that enthusiasm about chasing these dollars, I think they know, and their stakeholders know, that the whole intrigue of sports rests on faith that what we're watching is legitimate competition. As soon as it becomes wrestling or some other contrived game, it really loses its appeal. When I see a survey result like just came out recently from the organization YouGov, that 65% of Americans now think professional athletes influence their play to help influence gambling outcomes, that is not a fringe case of cynicism. That's something much more pervasive.
Well, if sports fans are becoming more cynical, do you have any sense of whether gambling is just changing the overall experience of being a fan?
Unquestionably, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but all of this was what those commissioners, as recently as the 90s and 2000s, warned would happen, was a degrading of the relationship between fans and athletes and teams. Whereas you might spend your life a diehard fan of one team, now you're preoccupied with who affected a prop bet outcome, or did my same game parlay hit. Carving the game up in that way can make you rabidly interested in the short term, but it also kind of hollows out your experience where you're only worried about what's making or losing you money. And unless you have a bet on the line, what used to get you on the edge of your seat doesn't anymore. It kind of loses its luster. And that, I think, is why this might have been such a short-sighted decision by the leagues, because the engagement of your fans over lives and over generations is what makes these leagues such powerhouses. And if they compromise that would have really damaging effects.
I really hate to ask, like, what of the children? But you're never a bigger sports fan than when you're a kid, right? You're 8 years old, you're 12 years old, you're watching your favorite team, and you're into it. The experience of fandom you're describing, chopping things up into same game parlays and all of that, that's not exactly just watching the game because you love the game. So, you know, what of the children?
It's not a moralistic or paternalistic, pearl clutching thing to ask. Several years ago, someone asked me, is it possible that down the road parents might be reluctant to introduce their kids to pro sports because they didn't want them overexposed to gambling? And I thought that was a bit much. And now we're seeing such alarming rates of gambling among people as young as their early teens. I never even contemplated placing a bet when I was 13. And yet you hear so many stories of middle school and high school and certainly college age students suddenly consumed by gambling of all sorts, but often sports is their introduction. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and like every other state, we have a problem gambling hotline that's advertised widely in all these gambling commercials. And now half of calls to that problem gambling hotline come from parents who are so worried about the rates of gambling they're seeing in their kids. So this is not over the top to be worried about, even at this point.
Your book is called Everybody Loses. We've been talking for a while now. We have a sense of why you think that. But if you were able to sum it up, why do you think we all lose?
Yeah, on the one hand, we're losing a staggering amount of money, as I said, and the effects that that have on savings and college tuition savings and credit scores and all these things are really pervasive. But it's much bigger than losing a boatload of money. It's also losing faith in the integrity of sports, losing our fondness for sports for their own sake, losing a hope that lawmakers won't take the quickest route to making an influx of tax revenue at the expense of public health and even the economic well-being of their constituents. It's losing on such a massive scale. And as for the winning, you'd have to scratch your head and wonder who exactly wins and could it possibly make all that losing worth it?
And yet, finally, you say all that. Lawmakers seem to know all that. People seem to know all that. And this thing just seems to be chugging ahead. I mean, do you think that, even after your book, even after knowing all that you know, even after knowing all that the experts know, that anything really changes?
Yeah, you might think, gosh, the train has left the station. You choose your metaphor, but there's no putting this back in the box, and that might be true. I'm a little skeptical that states or provinces will outright ban betting once they've legalized it. But I do think there is a second wave of what's sometimes called re-regulation on the horizon. We've seen that in places like the UK and Australia, where gambling got so out of hand and the studies and research became so clear that this was a public health crisis, that there was a tightening of the restrictions and an insistence on more consumer protections. And I think the industry, in some respects, knows that in the US and Canada, and they're really trying to squeeze customers as dry as they can for as long as they can get away with it. But I think ultimately lawmakers are going to wake up to the fact that this is out of hand and these companies need to be much more stringently regulated.
Well, Danny, thank you for the conversation.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Danny Funt is the author of the upcoming book, Everybody Loses, The Tumultuous Rise of American Sports Gambling. It's out in January. That's all for the show. The Cost of Living is based in Calgary. The show is produced by Daniel Lerman, Leah Hendry, and Jennifer Keene, with help from Jeff Kynock. Oh, and if you have a minute to throw us a rating, a review, hammer that 5 stars. I can't believe I'm saying that. But yeah, you know what? Hammer that 5 stars. That'd be great. I'm Paul Haberstrood. Thanks for listening.